Hey, good morning, everyone, or hello, whatever time you're joining in. So I'm Alex Levin. Hi, nice to be here again weekly on Sun and Moon Yoga Studios YouTube portal, Sunday mornings recording. And if you're here, it's lovely for me to know you're with me live by putting something in the chat. I've had some issues with sound again, even with my new earbuds, but it appears as if I'm closer to my laptop, it's better. So I'm going to stick a little closer this week. Um, so, what did I title this? I put a thumbnail today. So, overview if you haven't joined us before, um, we will do a little bit of movement. I have a theme going to guide us. And then we get into stillness. So the movements are quite small and often sort of unusual, not ones that um, we do them a little differently than maybe some of the usual ways you do them. Usually a bit smaller, and as mini movement suggests, oftentimes just small. Today will be quite small. So the thumbnail is a photo I got to take this week visiting my friend Jackie Schaefer, who has a meditation you can sign up for through Sun and Moon's website on Friday mornings through Zoom, 8 o'clock. And if you sign up for it, you can watch it later if you can't make it that time for a half hour. So I was visiting her, and she lives on a creek that feeds into the Chesapeake Bay. And a short drive from her house, we went to this, I think it's called Smallwood Park, and you could see in the distance the bridge that had collapsed, or what was it now, 2 months ago, 6 weeks ago? Key Bridge in Baltimore that blocked the entrance to the port for ships coming in, so huge supply chain kerfluffle. Anyhow, it was a gorgeous day, and, the sky is just gorgeous blue with fluffy clouds, and in the photo, you'll probably not be able to see, but way in the distance, this particular angle really you could see how much of the bridge had collapsed. I hadn't followed the news super closely, but I hadn't seen most of the way you saw the bridge. You didn't see the distance. Hard to say, but it looked like about a mile's worth was collapsed. So, what's the relevance here for us? Uh, when you look to understand something, when we look to understand something about ourselves or this temporal self of ourselves that's always changing, always becoming, and from the Zen phrase, always being, always becoming, uh, it's we tend to see things that are we're aware of at a certain angle, a certain level, a certain repetitiveness that we are familiar with, but but there's more. And the more includes what we do here of diving into our body in a way to elicit parts that have been tucked away, closed off, hidden, and in a way we did that. We closed it off. We in order to survive, to cope, to go on when we may not have been had the tools. And in this listening to the body, it's a listening where at first, you may not see anything that's so unusual to yourself, but as we stay with it and observe, and especially as we go to stillness, um, our body it's like the issues are in the tissues, you might have heard that phrase. Our bodies are holding exactly what we need to know to help ourselves be more whole, to be more authentic, to be yeah, completeness is really a huge part of it. So the integration, and this is what the path of yoga is. And there are a number of teachers these days, maybe not just from the yogic tradition, but from many traditions that are looking toward this same goal of and new practitioners blending psychology and somatics and life awareness to find out, to feel and acknowledge and discover, like reading a mystery book, following through to find out what is it that's the keys. And interestingly, this is key bridge that collapsed. What is the key that uh, we need to know? And somehow there's a grace, full of grace and mystery and way that this we have exactly what we need within us. You've probably heard that. So, for the movement, I'm going to stay seated, but if you could lie down, I'll show you for a second. If you could lie down and I'll show you the back of my shirt, which is a Sun and Moon shirt. Um, we might have a few more of these in stock. We might have more for our 30th anniversary celebration. So lie down on your side in some comfortable way. You may need some padding, um, knees bent, and so that your head can be on the ground. You may need a pillow under your head. You might just rest your head on your arm. So make yourself comfortable on one side, and the free arm can either be resting on your side or can be on the floor. So take a moment to set that up and get there. And if that is not accessible to you, doesn't have to be on the floor, can be on a couch, can be on the bed. And you could also do this sitting with me if you like. So let's arrive. Arriving, sensing ground, sound, and breath. Which one of those draws you first? I habitually, not just habitually, but by design, I go to ground. I feel like that's the one I need first. But you know what? I'm going to go with breath. I've already touched into ground. And of course, they're all happening at the same time. But breath for me. And if you're on ground or sound, that's fine. And each of these three pointers is a huge chapter, a huge realm unto itself. And they are portals to our presence, to our own full presence, right here, right now. What I'm going to say now, you can hear it, but also verify it for yourself. Is that now is the only thing we really need to be concerned with, ever really, but um, it's really the only doorway. Even if we're thinking about something else, remembering, imagining, creating it into the future or the past, it's through now. Sound is pulling at me. But I'm going to come back and have both breath as I'm feeling it in my belly. I hear a weed whacker or something out there. Breath, what if you're with breath, where are you feeling it? I notice where I was clenching. I make sure my earbuds are on the right. Oh no, you might not have been able to hear me all this time. Shoot. Oh shoot, maybe now you can hear me. Is there someone there who can tell me were you hearing me before? Oh dear. I hope so, but maybe you're just hearing me now. So we're just arriving through ground sound breath. And just breath. I feel how my body is. So I'm narrating what's happening with me, and you watch and see. It's just as an example. There's some looking for the right word. It's almost like an achy tightness right around just above my navel. Feels my breath is the feel of my breath touching there is accentuating. In fact, I'm going to just loosen my pants a little. And we're just noticing nothing you need to do with anything you feel, but as you might, as I just loosen my pants or just kind of softened my breath more, allowing it to explore this middle torso that feels a little tight, almost like there's a drawstring cinching that area. And there's plenty of place to roam and explore breath. You can feel free to do that and even have that happening, but just lay it on the side a little while we now open to, let's go to ground. And you're lying on your side. Sorry about that. If the sound was off before, we are lying, I'm sitting, but you're lying on your side if that's at all possible, knees bent, head supported, just very whatever padding you need. And ground, how you feel it through the parts that are touching, and how, as perhaps as you are feeling, noticing the or boundary of your body, receiving the solidity of the ground underneath us, or maybe a letting go through the tissues, the muscle, the nervous system, the signals that tell us to hold on might be given permission to relax, establishing a feel of safety, even as the ground might be pulled out from under us anytime, figuratively, maybe even literally. Whatever you're noticing, you can make note of it. You can give it a little caption if you like, the clearest few words, or maybe a gesture to express what body is expressing, your being is expressing. And sound, as we tune into sound without really losing breath and ground are there close by in the close background. For sound, we open to listening, and it invites what is out there, sound so-called created out there, gets received in here. The architecture of the inner ear. I love that phrase. Can't remember who I heard that from first. Architecture of the inner ear. Maybe Richard Miller. So connecting the inner and outer. Right, so all those things happening at once. And now, as you're lying on your side, I'm doing this from seated, but you're lying on your side comfortably. Imagine that the rib cage area, which is quite high, quite a large from almost your waist, yeah, pretty much your waist to above the collarbones in the front. Same in the back and sides, three-dimensionally. Imagine there are 3 zones. The top here that kind of take in your armpit area and collarbones and just above, the middle chest, and then the lower where the rib cage splits like a V in front, but also comes around and back a little, little lifts a little bit higher as well, not quite as high as in the front. And imagine that middle band, and you just press it a little bit toward the ground, that whole band. And for me, I'm pressing it to my right side. And it might drag the top and lower bands, thirds, along. So we press, pause there a moment, release, pause a moment. And again, just push. It can be a tiniest movement. And this might be really strange if you've never tried this before. It's almost like that, what's that game? Like we're pulling out like if you had stacked pieces of wood and you're just pulling out that row without collapsing the the structure. There's no danger of that here, it's all connected. So, and slowly giving that pause, that intentional moving in one direction, pause there as you're in that tilt, that crescent shape, and then moving back into place and pause there. Okay, let's let that go. This can be a whole long practice, but we're going to just do a little. Maybe something is already different about your breathing, about how you sense the ground, about how you sense yourself. And then let's do one of the ways to do this an opposite way, which is that same part of the rib that was, for me, it was pressing to my right. I might have said left, going to the right. Now imagine, so you're on that, take it away from the floor. So we were pushing, if you're lying down, into the floor. Now I'm lifting, moving that part of my rib cage away from my right and back. And I'm even in this position. If you're doing this sitting with me, you could use your hands. And even if you're lying on your side, you can kind of feel with the top arm, that's one that's not on the ground, kind of pull the ribs away from the ground and back. And that same pattern of movement, pause, return movement, pause, and then blend this with the pushing into the ground on your side, and I'm just pushing right. And again, the lower rib cage and the upper may be tilting, pulling. Maybe you're coordinating this with your breath, maybe not. Maybe you're feeling something in the way the body shifts against the ground, what happens in the neck or head, in the hips, low back. Okay, let it be. Just pause for a moment on your side, or if you're seated like me, just pausing. Taking this time dedicated to listening to ourself. I was reminded by a friend yesterday who's doing very similar work to what I'm studying and practicing, that we really don't know ourselves fully. And what an opportunity this is to more fully find out what is true. And it takes quiet, it takes stillness, it uh, takes a desire to want to do this, and sort of a knowing that there's some outcome that helps us. So hopefully you feel some of that today and other times as we practice. So now, just before time is going so quickly, let's play with the middle, the lower band. If you want, you can roll to your other side or stay on your side that you're on. I'm going to be doing this seated again. And again, moving that lower band now to the right a little and back. Move it, and again, it may drag the middle and upper bands, but emphasis is trying to drag just those lower ribs, lower third of the ribs closest to the waist. Move it, pause, return it, pause. No hurry. And let that go. Just pause there for a moment. I know it's not very much time, but it doesn't really take much. And if this is eluding you, it feels like, I don't get this. Try not to worry. Just, it is a strange kind of motion. Let's go to the upper band. Same thing. It's as if you kind of open your armpit a little and let that upper band press toward the floor or toward your side. Breathing, relaxed across the forehead as you may be doing something quite new. This one was the hardest for me in the beginning, but do less if you're feeling like you can't access it. Do less. Just the very beginning of the initiation of the movement. And there's a lot there. All right, let it go. Pause. Listen. Take your time to listen, not just for the first, most obvious things that are could be very revealing and new and special, but also listen a little more closely. What can happen is through this kind of practice is not only do we feel the physical things, but some emotional, psychological, long held things may begin to surface. And this is why it's so vital to establish a feeling of safety, so the support we get from each other, the support we get from knowing that the ground is here for us, that our ground, because it's a sort of an internal ground, we internalize it as often seems to be that the ground around us is pulled out, the rug is pulled out from under us. Okay, if you are feeling like you're in a really good meditative spot, even if you're still on your side, you may want to just stay there, or you might, or you might come up to sitting, and for about 6 minutes, we'll be still together. So establish that in a way that is comfortable enough that you foresee that you can hold it. If you get a little uncomfortable, you might just observe that before you make a shift and let yourself know more about that. And come back to the pointers of ground, sound, breath. Anytime or any other tether you can throw yourself or line you can throw yourself to come out of a feeling where you feel either distracted, lost, like you're not a good meditator, perhaps letting go, or just acknowledging again as we have been, not pushing away anything. As we were working to one side, you might feel a little lopsided, but actually, we were working to both sides. As we sit, you might remember to lean into the self who is the face before your parents were born, the changeless self who never abandons the changing self. Again and again, allowing, forgiving, returning. Just here, just home. A few more breaths together. Imagine you can hear my bell ringing. It comes across. And transition to from the end of the practice to the next thing. noting what you feel here now. Thank you for joining me. I feel gratitude to myself for doing this work, this play, to you for joining me, to the Sun and Moon community for its infrastructure and support and love, and for you for joining me and doing this work for yourself and for all beings. Thank you, and I again apologize. I'll need to add that to my checklist. The setting for the AirPods that I think was not on in the beginning. So I'll maybe re-record or something. So ciao, have a great week, and relax into now, and feel what the body is suggesting and telling you. It's been holding it for you, holding it safe for you.